Hey guys, this is Goku, and on this channel we talk about poker and ideas that can improve your life. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the subscribe button because I'll be honored to have you here. Today we're going to jump into Poker Snowie and we're going to try and analyze uh, a pack of hands that we imported a few sessions back. This time it will be the pack number 6 from this hand export that we did. It's got 236 hands, and we see that we've played them pretty badly actually. There's 7 blunders. So let's first browse through the blunders. And in the first one, if we go back, this is a start of the tournament pretty much, or one of the first levels. Blinds are 30-60. We've got with ante 8, and we have ace king suited on the big blind. And we have a limper with the under the gun +1. Small blind completes, and we raise it to 4 big blinds and get 2 calls. The flop comes 7-6-3. The small blind checks. We continue for a third pot bet, and here we see that the solver's actually checking 95% of the time with this hand, only betting 5%. And it makes sense. We are three-handed with ace king suited. We didn't hit the board. We only have pretty much the gut shot straight flush draw work going for us, and perhaps also the overcards, aces and kings. But we get called by the under the gun +1, so by the original pre-flop limper. And now on the turn we check on the deuce of diamonds, and the pre-flop limper bets half pot, and we call this, and this is of course a big blunder. I fully agree with this. It should not be a call ever. I mean, we only have ace high here. We've got no shot at catching the straight, the flush anymore, and aces and kings may not be good. There's a straight on the board already, so there's really nothing we can look for in this hand anymore, so we should just fold here. But we called here nonetheless, and the river went check check on the 7 of hearts, and yeah, and that makes sense because we shouldn't really find ourselves in this position ever. And actually we learned what the villain had, because villain checked behind as well, and villain had 2 flopped pairs, so the villain took this down. Let's check the second one. Here we are on the blinds 100-200 with ante 25. We have a limp from hijack, a call from cutoff, and a raise to 5 BBs from the small blind, and we call this on the big blind. Let's see the stacks of these players. Yep, this one's got 42 big blinds, this one's got 55, and I agree with the solver that while calling is indeed better than folding, this is a perfect hand for playing a bluff race. If in case someone calls, you may still flop a flush draw or an open-ended straight draw. Yeah, I really like this hand for a 3-bet. And it makes a lot of sense if we want to get these 2 limpers out of the pot and just play heads up versus the small blind. And that's why we should just be 3-betting here, and we can make it small. We can do like 2.5k, or maybe even 2.3k, and these guys should probably fold. Of course, if we get shoved on, we have to fold, but king queen suited is a hand that I really like for 3 bets. But yeah, nonetheless, we called here, and the cutoff also called. We saw the flop of 10-6 king with all spades. The small blind continued for a third of the pot, and we folded our hand. The cutoff called, went check on the turn, and on the river with 9 of clubs completing the pre-flop raiser went for a 75% of the pot bet. The cutoff shoved all in, and the original raiser folded, so we don't really know what they had, but let's move on. And here we've got blinds 150, 300, ante 40, and we have a limp from middle position. There's a 20 bb's raise by the by the hijack, and we shove over it with pocket tens. And I'm wondering if perhaps we had some tell here that this player is just doing some weird things, and that's why we shoved. Because I don't know if you want to shove pocket tens here on a 60 big blind stack with 3 people behind us and with a limper. But on the other hand, do we want to fold it for 20 bb's? Well, yeah, I think if we play it here, we only can shove or fold. There's no option for calling. So yeah, that was bad. Well, slightly bad. I wouldn't say it's a super bad play. But the Snowy thinks it's a 3.83 big blind error. So that's quite something. Then the limper shoves. Of course, he has aces, as it always happens in this spot. And of course, the initial happy player, or whatever you can call shoving 20 bb's with ace deuce suited, or raising 20 bb's because he didn't shove. He left himself with a 1.5 big blind. Of course, they always hit a hand, and he did hit a flush. So pocket aces, unfortunately, did not hit it. But thankfully, we hit a 10 on the river, so we hit a full house and we won the spot. But it's a funny hand, for sure. Let's move on. Now we have king queen, blinds 300, 600, ante 75. There's an open from under the gun +1. We called with king queen. I would say it's fine, yeah. Sometimes calling, sometimes raising here with king queen off. And we see a flop two-handed of 5-3, 10. The pre-flop raiser continues for a third pot bet. We call this. Pretty standard, nothing interesting here. 8 of spades on the turn. And it goes check, check. and 7 of diamonds on the river. The preflop raiser checks, and we check behind, and yeah, this is definitely a bad play. We should take a stab at this pot here. Snowy thinks betting quarter pot. No, betting half pot is ideal, but quarter pot is also similar EV. Oh, actually no. Optimal sizing is betting quarter pot, but somehow the half pot bet has EV of 4 point, has bigger EV. But yeah, we shouldn't be checking here because we lose to a lot of hands that are folding to a bet. And yeah, king high is not often a winning hand here, so we should definitely take a stab. He would have probably called us with ace-5 suited, but maybe he wouldn't call us with a pair of 4s or with a hand like 3-4 or 5-6 or 5-6 actually. I don't know. Yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? So let's move on. We've got king jack off in the beginning stages of the tournament, blinds 20-40, ante 5. Let me go here. So we have an open from under the gun, 3-bet from under the gun +1, small all-in, so it doesn't really matter. We call this 3-bet with king jack off on the button, and this is obviously a bad play, but it's the beginning of the tournament, and we are just wanting to gamble a little bit. We've got 200 blinds or more, and we just probably felt a little bit goofy and wanted to fool around, but I fully understand. Like the tip is saying here, several players raise and represent strong hands, therefore even though you're sitting in position, you have to play extremely tight and fold this hand. Ace queen off is also a fold. I mean, I wouldn't fold ace queen off probably here, just the same way as I didn't fold king jack, but if it was suited or if it was like 5-6 suited, then it's much better to fool around with in this spot. But we saw the big blind completing and the preflop raiser completing as well, and the flop went jack queen ace. It went check check. The preflop raiser continued for a third pot. We folded, and everyone actually folded. So yeah, the preflop raiser with ace king off won the pot, or the preflop 3-better actually. Now we've got another one, ace queen off, and the blinds are 25-50, ante 6. So again, beginning stages of the tournament. We open ace queen to 2.5 BBs. We get a 3-bet from hijack, 4x 3-bet, so a big one. And we call this. Snowy thinks it's a slight mistake, but again, in the beginning stages of the tournament, I think it's totally fine. Plus, we may have some tells on this player. He maybe has done this a few times already. But the flop comes 4-6-8. We check. And the preflop raiser checks once again. I mean, checks as well. We have a 10 of diamonds on the turn. We check. The preflop 3-bet or bets half pot or a little less than half pot. We call this. Solver thinks it's wrong, but I think we are just setting ourselves up for a bluff on the river, I guess, and looking at what happens next. But I agree, it's a spot where we should just fold. It's why get into positions where you're just in a bad spot with a bad hand. I mean, why do something like this with ace queen here if we can have hands like pocket nines or pocket sevens, which are much better candidates here to float, try and hit the straight to have some equity as well. And yeah, with a hand like ace queen, we should just give it up here. But we call nonetheless, and there's the 7 of clubs on the river. We check it. The preflop raiser, the villain, bets a little less than half pot, and we decide to 3-bet it, which is when we decide to raise it 3x, which is an error as well. And yeah, we got a call because the villain actually did hit their straight on the river. So yeah, we may have had a tell on this player that he may be fooling around, and he was fooling around, but nonetheless he did hit his hand. And our call on the turn should not have been a call. We should have just folded and avoid situations like that. Yeah. And if we go to the last blunder, we've got queen 10 off on a 60-120 blinds with ante 15, and we see an open to 2 BBs from the under the gun +1, call from middle position, which is an all-in, so we may just discard that, call from the button, and we decide to tag along with queen 10 off, which I think is perfectly fine. Well, we are a little bit low. We've got less than 30 big blinds, but I think it's completely fine to complete here this 1.5 BBs and try and hit a nice flop. Of course, sometimes the big blind will just 3-bet here, 3-bet still, but not this time. He just calls, so we see a flop of 4-10-7. We check it. The big blind checks as well. Preflop raiser continues for half pot, gets called by the dealer, and we fold here, which is a little bit weird. And we see the solvers actually shoving here. Surprising we folded this. Maybe again we knew something about this player, but I doubt that. Because if we knew that he was super tight or something, then he wouldn't probably be opening ace 10 from under the gun +1. But nonetheless, we see the 3 of spades come on the river. We see a continuation of 80% of pot at least, which gets called. And then on the 4 of spades, we see the villain again, this time betting all in. The dealer now folds. And we see the hands, so we know that the preflop raiser had ace-10 off, and we would have actually lost with our queen-10, but thankfully we just kind of felt it and decided to fold on the flop. But yeah, I agree. Here we should just ship it on the flop. And yeah, that's it for our session this time. You see, we are at such a bad error rate, but that is mostly due to this this terrible river hand. Just one of these errors, which was probably this one. No, this one, right? 16 BBs of EV loss, so a huge one. And this is just us fooling around. So as you can see, you should not do that. I mean, sometimes you may have some tells on the player, and maybe you gotta go with your gut. I mean, that's what I always do, but you know, what do I know? And yeah, it's most important thing is that you have fun. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, please write them below. Check out the description of this video. There are links to other playlists with spots that we've played, GTO spots, of course, various different spots we've played in the past on various different platforms actually. And yeah, in the next video I'm going to go over the errors from this session, from this hand import in Poker Snowie, and I think we will do a few more Poker Snowie sessions, and then perhaps do a summary maybe of all the tools that we've explored lately, or maybe I'll also try and look for yet another piece of software, of GTO software or AI, poker AI software, where you can just play with like we are doing here. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. You want to learn how to play poker? Great. You have little or no experience playing poker? No problem. Do you want to learn the fundamentals, the most basic principles that allow you to easily win money when playing with casual players? That's perfect, because this course was created specifically for people like you. My name is Mateusz, I've played over 3 million hands of No Limit Texas Hold'em, and I'd like to teach you how to play poker like a pro. What you will learn in this course are the fundamentals, the ABC of poker, condensed into 21 short and easily digestible lectures. In each lecture, you will learn a different concept which you can test out and practice immediately after watching. Well, do you want to become a good poker player? Do you want to be able to beat recreational players easily? Do you want to have a great time winning at your local home games? Great! Get this course now and start winning at poker.